I think brilliant. Stephen's doing the recording. And Frankie's getting his headphones in. You should just be able to unmute anyway, Frankie, because you're a co-host.
Okay. Can you hear me?
We got you.
Thank you. I was just having quite a bit of a distraction then. Not only was the internet down, but all of a sudden my staffy decided to bust into the kitchen, because he can do that. Because, of course, you guys will have to bear with me. Those of you who know me will know that just because I've been around 28 years and have 18 years of total abstinence, it doesn't mean I've necessarily got my shit together. So, and that's the other thing, of course. If my swearing at all, which sometimes I have to use for conjecture or to just emphasize a point, scares you off, this isn't the workshop for you. These are all the disclaimers which we normally do. Because we don't say what drugs we used, but I used a lot of drugs that I smoked before I started trying to ingest them in other ways by putting them up and steaming. So I have a lung condition. So every now and then when I overtalk something, I have to use one of these. If this is a trigger for you, this is not the workshop for you. So we've got a few things out of the way to start off with. I've got to ask Paul, what boundaries have we got, Paul? What's the time? And, you know,
the time-wise, we'll just run it like a normal meeting. So we started at quarter, so we've got about an hour and 15 minutes, Frankie, in terms of time bound.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, just to let the group know, Paul and I have done these several times, and these workshops, and I'm really grateful to have him on board. He's an asset for me. I share a bit of my experience. I'll call on Paul to share some experience. I'll also call on some others. I'm doing this on my phone on 4G. Normally I'm on an iPad or something, and I've got internet problems, so you're going to have to bear with us. So tonight's workshop's going to be about the questions. Okay, now when we get the basic text and we start reading the basic text, we try not to read it like a novel. A lot of people get a basic text given to them at a meeting, or they purchase one, and or the sponsor gives them one, and they read it as if they're reading latest novel, War and Peace or something. They kind of read it from cover to cover. Or what they generally do is they'll flick it open to how it works. Why bother with the stuff at the beginning? You might as well know how it works. Well, that's not how the basic text works. And as a lot of people know, a basic text is a textbook. And people who have textbooks are generally students. And we're students of the program of recovery, which is the recovery program gives us an ability to deal with life. So all we're doing is looking at some basics. The fun bit about these interactive workshops, which is very different, is that we're going to call on you guys to ask you to come back and give us what you think your answers are. Now, please remember, there are no right or wrong answers. This is just a workshop. And for example, when somebody gives an answer, if you're anything like me, in my mind, I'll have a different opinion. And that's how this works. It's nothing about being right or being wrong. Now, if we just start off with something simple before we get to how it works, we'll have a couple of questions to start off with. And I'm going to use a bit of reference as such. So can I ask for two people to put their hands up? Because I'm going to ask the question. The question's going to be from page 8, and it's just, why are we here? So Paul, if you can give each one of the members a minute.
Yeah.
Each. And if they'd like to just share, why are we here?
Nice one. Okay, Darren's nice and quick. Darren, you're unmuted. Why are we here? Just give us a minute.
Cheers, Frankie. I'm here because I've just had enough of using. I've had enough of my addiction, and I've come to the end of my tether with it. I'm going to end up dead soon, and I know it. I can feel it in my body, and it's telling me I can't continue using anymore. So that's why I'm using the program of Narcotics Anonymous, because I want to get better. And
Thanks, Darren.
Nice one, Darren.
Around recovering addicts.
Thanks, Darren.
Thank you, Darren. Louise, why are we here?
I'm here because I want to give up my addiction. I want to be better. I want to be better for myself. I don't want to be the person that I was before. I want to live a clean and serene life. I want to be a better person. I'm sick of using. I'm sick of my addiction. I want my life back and I want my family back.
Thank you, Louise. And we're going to
Thanks, Louise.
We're going to go over the leak, guys.
I'm one of the guys that read the basic test front to back. I'm here to learn. I'm here because I formed my till and I want to find the way to stay clean.
Brilliant. Thank you. Okay, let's throw another question in. We're going to do the same thing. We'll keep them really short, the answers, till we get a bit deeper in and have some more people as we get used to doing this format. Because this isn't about, I'm not the world's best recovering addict and I don't have all the answers. But we'll start to hear that we have very similar answers, even though our style may be quite different. So the next question, let's have 3 people, give them a maximum of a minute each. Who is an addict? Let's ask them, are you an addict? Who is an addict?
Okay, who'd like to come back on that? Okay, going back to Louise. Sorry, Matt, that's you.
As an addict, I'm an addict. I can't stop putting down. I have to pick up at something that I need every day. And I don't want to be an addict anymore. I'm addicted to everything. I don't want to be addicted to drugs and drink any longer. I want a new way of life.
Okay, Louise, thank you very much. Back to Darren.
Cheers, Paul. Yeah, I'm definitely an addict. I've known that for this part of 20 years. To be honest with you as well, the signs were there for several years before that. From about the age of 12, 13, even as a kid, if it wasn't like, you know, collecting stickers for the Panini football books and stuff like that, even at a young age with the football, being obsessed with football and playing football, being in 2-3 teams at once, taking diazepam at a young age as well, getting obsessed with that. Yeah, like I say, I've been an addict since I've been 18 years old, and yeah, I just come to the end of my tether, so I definitely know I'm an
Cheers,
addict.
Darren. Brilliant stuff. Great. Okay, I'm back to Leap.
I'm Alan, an addict.
Alan.
I definitely can't say clean. And a disease attachment in all sorts of forms. OCD, chasing women, money, people, places and things, just to take me away from myself. Thanks.
Thank you, Alan.
Thanks, Alan. Now, just to throw it out there to the rest of the group, does anybody at this meeting tonight not identify with any of that? Because the process of recovery is about identification. I can see the people leaving now, but is there anyone who doesn't identify with that? Because absolutely every single one of the sharers I identified with. How about you, Paul?
Oh yeah, completely. I heard, I think it was Louise that mentioned the word obsession. That's what jumped out of what everyone said, you know.
Yeah, because when I start, I can't stop. I can't save anything till the morning. And when I don't have something, when I'm in active addiction, it's what I'm thinking about. Ways and means to get more. You know, that I heard it I heard it in the War Is Over meeting. I heard somebody say that if they could put their children into crack converters, they would have. And I identified immediately, not that I ever had that thought. Mine was more about cutting my hair off and selling my hair. But we have these wild and crazy thoughts as an addict, you know, and that's not what makes us an addict. The obsession and compulsion makes us addicts. And but to carry on with this, they were all from page 8 in the basic text Narcotics Anonymous. Now, the next question that comes up that has any substance is on page 38. And in Who is an Addict? These numbers might not correlate, Paul, exactly, because I'm looking on the internet here with these. So in Who is an Addict, we'll get to page 18, but in Who is an Addict, the next question with some depth and weight to it is in the chapter Who is an Addict? Did we ask ourselves, could it be the drugs? Now, if we're able to have a couple of people come in and whether they've got any experience on that, did they ever stop themselves and think, is my problem my using?
Yeah, I get that. Okay, so what we're asking is, did we think, was our problem the drugs?
Yeah.
Hey, Jericho boys, right, get you unmuted.
Hi, I'm Billy, I'm an addict.
Hey, Billy.
Did I ever ask myself, was it the drugs? No, for the first few years of my using anyway, I enjoyed it too much. So I never ever asked myself that question, could it be the drugs? I was having fun with it at the time. Closer to the end, yeah, there was a few times I did ask myself, could it be the drugs? But I still wouldn't put them down, didn't want to put them down. It wasn't until about a month, 2 months before coming into Jericho, where I did something that I still hold guilt and shame for to this day. I knew it was the drugs. So I didn't need to ask myself anymore. I knew that the drugs were my problem. At first, there was a solution to my problems, but no, I knew drugs, excuse my language, fucked me right up, and my life, my thinking, controlled everything. I put them in front of my family, my friends, everything, mate. My life just went totally upside down. So, yeah, at the end I did ask myself, could it be the drugs? And then I knew it was the drugs, mate. Stay there.
Thank you, Billy. Brilliant. Okay, and we're going to go to May.
Thanks, Paul. Hi, my name's May. I'm an addict. Yeah. Did I ask myself, could it be the drugs? You know something? I feel like I always knew it was the drugs. I didn't know how to stop using though. I just didn't know how to stop. At the beginning, they served its purpose. I used and they numbed my feelings. But then when my feelings were still so overwhelming and the pain of existing and the pain of the way that my life had become and the drugs were not working anymore, I didn't know how to stop. And I'm not going to take up much more time, but I sat around in places, I always share this, I sat around in places where they'd hand me sheets of paper and say, this is how you stop. Or I'd go, no one ever gave me the solution. No one ever said to me, you know, like, and I would sit in therapy and we talk about the problem. No one ever said that you're an addict with the disease of addiction. I hadn't heard of NA. So that's my answer. Thanks.
Thanks very much, May. I think it's Jericho. Yeah, Jericho Girls next. And then Lisa.
Hiya, I'm Mary, I'm an addict.
Hey, Mary.
So just on what you were talking about there, yeah, drugs, I'm trying to figure out how to formulate what I'm saying. So I got clean for 18 months and in that time, I thought that I convinced myself that drugs were my only problem. I didn't realise that I was the problem, and I didn't realise that drugs I'd been using drugs as a solution for what I suffer from. And I also want to add on that it took me relapsing and then coming into Jericho, for me to finally realise that part of my mind that I always thought was me was actually, well, it's actually addiction. Like, that was actually quite overwhelming when I realised that. And I feel like I'm stuttering a lot. I'm just trying to explain what I mean. Yeah, like in 18 months of clean time, to be honest, I don't know how I managed to get it without a program in my life. That's how powerful the addiction was for me. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Brilliant, Mary. Thanks for your contribution. So we've got 3 hands up. Frankie, we'll take a minute each. Is that okay?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah,
Why
okay.
not?
So Lisa.
Could it be the drugs?
Okay, Lisa.
Hi, Frankie.
Hey.
Well, I've put yes and no, but regarding to the yes, I carried on regardless until I was in a situation where I needed to change, and that change would have been swapping one drug for another, or until I totally got honest within myself and asked for help, and that I didn't want to die. That's when the realization came.
Thank you, Lisa. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Rory.
Hey.
Hey, yeah.
I came in late. I wonder if the meeting's beginning or it's ending. I'm not sure.
We're doing a workshop, Rory. We're doing a workshop. So Frankie's filing out some questions. Did you hear the last question?
No, I just came in.
Did we think it was the drugs? Did we get to the point where we thought it was the drugs, or what was your experience?
Oh man. Well, be honest with you, it wasn't just the drugs. There's a lot of things, man. It was more than just the drugs. You know how we all as addicts begin. Sometimes we begin it with a drink. You know, the drink starts the fire. If you got an addicted type personality, man, you know, if it's in you, man, and your body likes it a lot, it wants to go a little higher sometimes. It wants to get that punch. But I started off with the alcohol, and I advanced to my addiction.
Rory, sorry, you broke up there. Are you there?
Thank you.
Thank you, Rory. We'll just keep going. So we got 2. Will we take Kelly? Will we get Kelly and then come back to Taylor in the next question?
I'm breaking
everyone.
up. Huh?
Good evening. I'm Kelly. I'm an addict.
Hi, Kelly.
Hey, good to see you. Thank you for taking the meeting and everyone that does service on the meeting. And I've just been to buy food tech ingredients for my daughter, and I came out and I thought I need a meeting. WhatsApp's down, and I noticed someone posted this earlier, and just had a quick look about what the meeting was about, and I saw May sharing when I come in, and welcome to the treatment centres. We do recover. Like I was 4 years clean in August, and I have no desire to use today. You know what I mean? It's a miracle. I went to treatment, I came out, I went in NA, I got service, I got a sponsor, I took on all the suggestions, I worked steps, I reach out, I help others, and that's how we stay clean, one day at a time. Like for me, the drugs were just life solution. I didn't know how to feel, I didn't know how to act, I didn't know how to be me without a substance inside my body. So what do? I come into NA and I find a spiritual solution. I wake up in the morning, I have a daily reprieve. I wake up, I read the Just for Today. I get that identification that I'm an addict. I write a gratitude list. My day's been overwhelming today. I've just started fashion at college. I'm doing fashion school. I've got 4 beautiful children. I pick them up from school, make dinner, bath, bread, into bed. And I've just done late night shopping for my daughter for food tech for her GCSE. And, that's what you get when you come to NA and you stick in NA.
Nice one, Kelly. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Cheers. Glad you're here.
Back.
Glad you're here. Shall we take Taylor, or do you want to keep moving?
No, let's have Taylor, and then
Taylor.
we'll have a minute with Taylor, and then we'll get to the next section.
Yeah. Hey, Taylor.
Thanks, guys. Hey, I'm an addict named Taylor, and grateful to be clean. Yeah, did I think it was the drugs? It took until the end there for me to realize maybe there's a common denominator here. And it says in the basic text that something along the lines of like, we believe the addiction started well before the drugs. And yeah, I mean, by the end there, it took me about 25 years for me to finally surrender to this program. And, you know, I realized that we all had that thing in common. We're just talking about not using it, but that's the tip of the iceberg with the disease of addiction. That's been my experience. All my issues came out to play after I got clean. I realized that, yeah, okay, well, the drugs were numbing the issue. But yeah, by the time I dragged my ass into a meeting, I was like, oh, maybe I should probably stop using drugs and then my life will get better. So that's about it.
Brilliant, Taylor. Good to see you tonight.
And just to let those know who may be looking in the basic text, the question is actually formed in part of a sentence. It's only in desperation did we ask ourselves, could it be the drugs? We're an unusual fellowship in Narcotics Anonymous because we ask ourselves. There's a lot of other 12-step fellowships who look at us as being ill, which is not my experience. We may do some crazy things and have some wild thoughts, but we're not actually insane people. We're just people who have a condition, an illness, or a disease, whatever way you want to categorize it. However, we are fairly balanced people. In fact, if anything, we're quite intelligent people. And that's part of our problem. We're intelligent people with a very high emotions. And that's why we have to learn how to deal with our feelings first, even though we're taught in the book basic text that feelings are not facts. The next bit I want to move on to is really going to involve you guys from Jericho. So I feel like jumping in, but we're going to look at this with, even though it's for anyone, of course, we're going to look at this as chapter 4, which is how it works. It's read in every meeting. And then the other side of it's read on the card in every meeting. Now, there's a piece that gets missed, which is from here, which is the questions. And this is just before we get to step 1. I hope you guys can see this. The reference is from page 18 to page 19. There's a whole 3 paragraphs which gets missed out. But what the whole main focus of it tonight is around the questions we ask ourselves. The book says, these are some of the questions we ask ourselves. You know, I have to sit down, take some time and ask myself these questions before I start my step work. It's very helpful for me to do it. It's not something I have to do, but it's something that can help me get my mind more focused on recovery, because I have to want recovery. You know, as it says at the beginning of how it works, it says, if you want what we have to offer and are willing to make the effort to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. These are the principles that made our recovery possible. So I want to throw it over to the guys in treatment, but you don't have to be in treatment. Please put your hand up. Let's have 5 in a row, Paul. Shall we go for an odd number, all with a minute each? And the first question is, and remember, guys, this is hot potato time. Are we sure we want to stop using? You got to ask yourself, are you sure you want to stop using, or is you on a swerve? Do you not want to go to prison, or you know, are you saving your kids or something?
That question totally bent me out of shape. I remember years ago when I was coming in, I asked the guy to sponsor me and he asked me that question. I was like, how dare he? But the truth of the matter was, at the time, I just wasn't, but didn't even know it myself. Louise, let's get you unmuted.
Yeah, I do want to stop using. I don't want to be that person any longer. If I don't stop using, I'm going to end up like it says in the book, jail, institution, or what's left, death. Don't want to die.
Great, you're great, Louise. Okay, we're going to Darren now.
Cheers, Paul. Darren addict. Yeah, definitely want to stop using. Yeah, I've just had enough of it. From waking up naked in sheds, absolutely fucking fucked up my face, not knowing how I got there, to just not being able to stop sticking needles in my groin and being told if I don't stop, I'm going to kill myself, and still continuing to do it. And yeah, I definitely want to stop using.
Okay.
And I'm just out of treatment as well, so.
Good one, Darren. Well done. And we're going to go to treatment. Leap.
I'm Alan, I'm an addict.
Alan.
I definitely want to stop using. One thing the way no healer. And I fed in 60-day care under for 5 years. And then I want to learn how to feel the feelings and deal with it. And I can't do that if I take a substance, because I've been running for feelings since I was a kid. Definitely want to stop using, Paul.
Thank you, Alan. And go to the Jericho boys.
Hey, hi, I'm Kyle, I'm an addict.
Hi, Kyle.
I definitely want to stop using. Also want to stop using, and I want to use this program to learn to live life and be able to stop the thing in my head that tells me I can every time and takes me back out there. Before I came to treatment, I was just in and out of meetings, and it was total misery. So to use NA to stop telling myself I'll be all right this time, and to understand addiction properly. Thanks, guys.
Cheers, Kyle. Is there anyone else there that wants to chip in?
Paul. Hi, Billy, addict.
Hi, Billy.
Am I sure I want to stop using? Definitely, mate. As I said before, I enjoyed it at first, but in desperation, I had to stop, mate. I couldn't do it anymore. It beat me, and it's time for me to beat that addiction. I'm in control now. You know what I mean? Back then, I wasn't in control. I controlled everything. What I done, who I spoke to, how I got it, how I ate, what I ate, when I ate, basically, when I get washed, when I get changed. But I've not got that now. I've not got that desire that I had. So I'm sure that I want to stop using it.
Cheers, Billy. Brilliant stuff. Okay, we're going to do Nikki, Jericho, and Rory. 1 minute each, please, guys. Nikki.
Hi, Nikki, Alec, real quick. Yeah, I definitely want to stop using, but as much as I say that, the terrifying thing is it could and would happen again. You know, I got a bit of recovery. I tried everything else possible to get clean and avoid NA, and the only thing that ever worked was NA. I relapsed last year, and it frightens the shit out of me, because as much as I do not want to use ever again, faced with that, when I'm still vulnerable, a trigger, I could be off from running again and believe that disease in my head that tells me it's a good idea to do it, and I will only just do one. And it's insane and it's scary, and the only way I know to do it is through this stuff. So I'm desperate, and the gift of desperation is what will make you do whatever it takes.
Thanks, Nikki. Totally identify. And we're going to Jericho girls. You there?
Hi, I'm Suzanne and I am an addict. Hi, I 100% this time, but I wouldn't have said that before. But because I experienced that I couldn't just go out there and have a drink or whatever, and it just took me back to using both times, using my drug of choice and self-harm to myself. So this time, I know it's the only way. That's me. Thank you.
Thanks, Suzanne. And Rory, you got a minute.
Thank you. Thank you, Paul.
Hey, Rory, good to see you.
I'm sorry about the connection, but this is very great stuff here that you guys are doing. Be honest with you, this before it comes to how it works, it's really talking about preparing us for our true deep down honesty within ourselves. If we can be genuinely honest with ourselves, then we're on a great way of trying to find a solution to our disease. First of all, a lot of us didn't know it was a disease. And you know, when I was in treatment, I'll make it real quick, the obsession and compulsion just didn't leave right away. You know, the obsession, compulsion is it's a gift from God for that to be evaporated from us so that we can find a way to stay clean and sober. the thing is, it's all about deep down, genuine honesty with ourselves. I used to say, yeah, I'm ready to stop, but I wasn't really thoroughly convinced yet. So it's about the honesty deep down within yourself. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Rory. Lovely contribution. Okay, Frankie, yours.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Rory. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, I heard it said on social media the other day that the only things that addicts do in moderation is step work, which I kind of found funny. The next question we've got in line is going to be, do we understand that we have no real control over drugs? Now, that's a big thing. That's a big thing for us. It's a second question. Did I understand I had no real control over drugs? I believed I did. And when somebody had pointed out to me that I was spending money on drugs that I was actually should have been spending on food, and I was doing stuff like that, it was starting to make me realize there was another point I had where one day I was complaining about my body hurting, my legs hurting, and somebody had pointed out to me, this was at the age of 18, I'm 60 years old now, they were pointing out to me that I'd been using quite a lot. And I was in that place of, no, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem at all. And, you know, did I understand I had no real control over drugs? Did I empty out the bin looking for bits of foil? What did I do? You know, you guys, let's throw it over to you guys. Come on, Paul. You know, let's see if we can have 5 people to answer. Please stay on topic, guys. Try and answer the question.
Alan?
Do we understand we have no real control over drugs? Who's a slave? Come on.
Yeah, I'm Alan, I'm an addict. I was handed class A's at 11-year-old and smoking it. And 5, 6 weeks in the line, I even knew then I never had any control over drugs. Coming to treatment, I find out I've got an allergy to chemicals because it didn't like me. I definitely can't control drugs, and I knew that as a kid. I still used for over 40 years. Thanks.
Thank you, Alan. And we're going to Justina for an example of not having any control over our using our drugs. Hey, Justina.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Frankie, for doing this.
Okay.
Justina Addict. Yeah. Do I understand that I have no real control over drugs? It took me more than 20 years to understand that, because I just lived with that for all these 20 years, believing I have control, I can control. So I had to reach my rock bottoms to do horrible, tragic things until I understood just a few years ago, to be honest. Yeah, I understood now that I don't have, I don't have control. I can have control if I surrender and if I understand I am powerless. So that's the only thing. But, yeah, living all these years, I did not have, real control. So yeah, that's my answer. Thank you.
Thanks, Justina. Darren?
Yeah, I can't control my using. Like I shared before, being told that if I inject in my groin again, I will die, and I still continue to do it.
That's a good one.
I still continue to use after losing my brother, who died of an overdose, losing my cousin, died of an overdose, lost my contact with my kids, lost my girlfriend, partner, contact with my family, all that because of drugs, because I couldn't stop using. So yeah.
Thank you, Darren. Louise, Frankie, and Lee. Can we take these 3, Frankie? A minute each?
Yeah, of course.
Great.
Yeah, like the same. Like I couldn't stop using drugs and that. Like, and I lost everything. Lost my house. Lost my kids. Lost my partner. Drugs controlled me more than what I could control anything. It took my life off me basically. And now we've been in treatment, I'm slowly learning that I can rebuild my life back only if I don't touch that drug again. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Louise. Frankie the Hat. He likes to go by his full moniker.
Hey, family, Attic, call Frankie the Hat. So it's a great day to be clean and program at Narcotics Anonymous. So So, you know, you would have figured a guy like me, after 19 years, I figured out I didn't have any control. But that's how I rolled, man, and that's how far I ran. But you know, the interesting part about control is the harder I tried to control, the more uncontrollable I became. You know, that uncontrollable state. And it came down to one simple thing. I mean, towards the end, man, I would get up and I'd say, I've had enough of this shit, man. I'm done with this. I'm over with this. But you know what? I used that day. And you know, and there were many days like that where I realized, like, I can't stop. I cannot stop. And I could not stop, and I could not stay stopped until I came to the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous. And see, and we have this wonderful step called step 1, and it talks about a concept called powerless, okay? It took me a while to grasp the significance and meaning of that, but it had a lot to do with control because, as I said, the powerless part was, you know, I felt if I could control my environment, then I had it going on, man. But, you know, it don't play like that. And when it comes to the dope, there is no hope. So thanks for letting me share.
Great, Frankie, thank you. And Lee?
Hiya, Paul. I'm Lee. I'm an addict. I've knew all along that I've never been able to control my drug use, but I really knew that I couldn't control it when I was pregnant. I was on a prescription, but I still couldn't stop using like illicit drugs, even though I knew it was harming my child. And you know, now looking back, I wish I could have controlled it, but I couldn't. So yeah, I knew especially then. Thanks.
Great example, Lee. Thank you. Frankie.
Right, yeah, I'm unmuted. Sorry, Paul, it came up muted. Thank you. And Lee and the others, some of your personal disclosure there is, you know, you're amongst friends. Thank you for that. That's quite challenging. Sometimes when we go to face-to-face meeting and main meetings, not all the room are addicts, not all the room identify. It can be any monkey in a meeting. So sometimes we have to, when we share some real personal stuff, and I can identify Lee because I was a single parent in active addiction, bringing up a girl, my young daughter, who's a successful woman today with 2 children of her own, who's predisposed to this illness that we have. And, you know, that's a lot of people can judge us on that stuff. We get judged really a lot as addicts. What I plan to do is to skip the next question because it's the same question, just from a different angle, but we're going to ask the 4th question along. However, if you're in treatment, think about this deeply, you're not allowed to answer, okay? If you're in treatment, this time, Jericho, you guys, mute button, please, okay? Because the next question is, do we realise that in the long run, we didn't use drugs, they used us? And the question which the Jericho guys can't answer, because we've just basically answered that last one by saying, you know, did we understand we have no real control over drugs? You know, the question the treatment guys cannot answer is, did jails and institutions take over the management of our lives at different times? So, sorry, Paul, I was a bit...
That's all right. So the question is, do we realise that...
No, the question is, did jails and institutions take over the management of our lives at different times? If you're in treatment, you can't answer this, so don't put your hand up.
Okay. That includes you, Darren. Okay, let's get you unmuted, JC.
Hi, I don't think that jails and institutions helped me. I'm glad that Leigh picked out because my daughter, actually being pregnant with my daughter and at 7 months pregnant and realizing that I wanted to be her mother, that is the program that got me clean, that I had to do it to be able to salvage, you know, the health of my child, even though she was perfect and born fine. She's 17 months now, but that was what helped me. I didn't have any help with treatment. I didn't have to go to jail or any institution to do that. But becoming a mother was itself. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks for that. But the question is, did jails and institutions take over the management of our lives at different times? Did they not? There's a good reason for it. So thank you for that.
Hey, Scott, you want to come in?
Hi guys, my name's Scott, and I'm an addict. Yes, it did. Absolutely did. I was qualified accountant, family, baby, other children. But at the end up, I had to be taken away and I had to be institutionalised, and it absolutely took over the management of my life for some time. It's not stopped me, but it did ultimately. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Scott. Who have we got next? It is, sorry, Frankie the Hat.
Yeah, okay, guys. So, you know, I had a few experiences with jails, and I remember that I had a period there when I was getting towards the end where I got locked up 3 times, and they were for serious charges. And somehow the first 2 times they somehow let me out, but the 3rd time was the keeper. And I remember when I got locked in that situation, I said to myself, I said, I'm really getting tired of this shit. I think I need a vacation. And so all of a sudden jail seemed to be rather attractive because I realized I didn't have the capacity to manage anything. And I thought, at least I'll get a hot in the cot for a while and I can step back and try to think about what's going on with my life. So yeah, it was definitely, the institution managed my life. And I got very comfortable with that for a while because while I was there, I couldn't use. I could use, but I chose not to use. But it was just through abstinence. There was no program involved.
Thank you, Frankie. Brilliant. And we're going to go to Taylor, then Rory.
Yes, institutions definitely got in the way of the management of my life. You know, I was in a substance abuse / psych ward 3 times before I got clean, and I realized that you know, I didn't have my phone. I didn't have any contact with the outside world. I was in a quote unquote safe place, which in hindsight, it definitely was the best place for me to be. Because I couldn't use, you know, I had to be told when I could eat, and you know there were certain freedoms that I was used to that were taken away, and you know the whole time, about all 3 times, all I wanted to do was go back to using, and so you know in hindsight I can definitely see that was an issue, and it took a while for me to realize that, but that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you, Taylor. Good to see you tonight. And Rory?
Yeah, great question, Frankie. Great question. And it seemed like it's leading up to the unmanageability of our lives. And something had to step in. And for me, at that time, I knew my life was becoming very unmanageable. And so when I went to treatment, it was the best thing that could ever happen to me because I didn't have the capability of watching myself. My life had really became unmanageable, and it was a fear that was a healthy fear. So if you guys thinking that you know you're an embarrassment to the world, or you're a waste and you're not worthy, I hope you stop thinking about that way, and don't let those thoughts keep you from being carefully watched, because it was difficult to watch myself and repair myself. It was the best thing that ever happened to me, man. And I'm glad I surrendered to somebody else's way of thinking so I could figure out what's really going on with me. If you don't understand the disease and you don't know what you're up against, then it's going to be hard to really take care of yourself. Thanks.
Thank you, Rory. Thank you very much. I think that's us, Frankie.
Okay, well, yeah, to understand that this is one which always loves to spin the treatment counsellors out, and that is a power greater than myself. Power greater than myself, as we heard Rory just say, you know, and the gentleman before him told me when to get up, told me when to eat, told me how to basically, as it says, take over the management of our lives. You know, when do you sit down and someone says, well, how are you managing your life? You know, just like, when do you get random questions like that thrown at you? But taking over the like drugs took over the management of my lives. The prison services took over the management of my lives, but they're negative managements to a certain extent. You know, we're trying to, once we're in the great outdoors and we've got free will and we can do what we want, we need to find a new way to live. That's why NA comes in, that's where it can help. So the next question, which we got, and I'm just reading these out of the book from page 19, of course, is do we fully accept that every attempt to stop using or control our using failed? Now, this is going to be challenging for some people because some people believe they have the power. So this is open. Guys from Jericho, please come in. You know, do we fully accept that our every attempt to stop using or control our using failed? I guess you wouldn't be here if it didn't.
It'd be good to hear some examples of trying to stop using, maybe times where we've tried to control it or stop it, and maybe when those moments helped us come to a realization that we couldn't. Louise?
Yeah, I've tried before to stop. And like, I mean, like, tried everything. Well, I wouldn't say I've tried everything. That's the reason why I've had to come to treatment. Like, locking myself in the house, not having money, getting barred for certain shops, having people take my money off me. At one point, I was actually got someone to lock me in my house, so I couldn't get out. And yeah, I've tried everything, and it's not worked. If it had worked, I wouldn't be where I am.
Brilliant. Thank you, Louise. Nikki?
Yeah, I'm Nikki, I'm an addict. Yeah, I've tried pretty much everything, moving around, giving my bank card, basically tried everything other than what I thought was a cult of NA and Bible bashers. That's what I thought. I've tried locations, I've tried relationships, I've tried sex, I've tried swapping one drug for another. The list goes on and on and on. And the only thing that's ever got me clean is rehab, apart from this time. But the only thing that's kept me clean is NA, is these 12-step programs that work. And I'm still struggling. I'm struggling right now, but I've seen it's worked. And I know it's the only thing that has ever worked. I've tried everything you can think of.
Thank you, Nikki. We're going to
Thank you.
Yeah, well, Alan, I was in hospital. I remember telling myself, no, I'm not going to use it again. Lying in a ward for 2.5 weeks. Went in for a packet of cigarettes. Within 20 minutes, I was in the toilet having a shot. Which I know use, definitely.
Thank you, Alan.
Classic.
Justina?
Thank you.
Hi, Justina Addict. My experience may be a bit different. I mean, well, I tried, there was lots of attempts and I did fail, but I didn't go to treatment or rehab. Personally, there's been like tragic things in my life, like my best friend, she died from, she just basically drank herself to death. And yeah, and I said, that's it, this is God giving me a sign, and I didn't stop, lots of different things, like, child services involved, like, nearly losing job, I knew there were signs, but there were lots of signs, but I've just failed every time until I found an A. Yeah, that would be my answer. I don't know. Yeah, it's my experience.
Thank you, Justina.
Thank you.
And we'll go to Zoom user. What's your name?
My name's Eric. I'm an addict.
Hi, Eric.
Welcome.
Thank you. Coming at you from Sacramento. Anyway, years ago, before I got 2.5 years now, but until then, I remember I had a friend who was the guy I used to get my stuff from. He was the man, and we had this girl that was a good friend of ours, mutual friends of ours, and he got hepatitis C late in his, and he didn't know he had it all this time he had it, so he was dying. So I remember I called him one time to see how he's doing, and she answered the phone and said, "Oh, he's in the hospital." And I'm like, "Oh, wow." So you call me back. So I called back later on, and she goes, "He died." I go, "He died? Oh my God." All I was concerned about is the money and the dope and the weed. Where's the stash? We got to get the stash before anybody else gets it. And she goes, "That's the funny thing, because he asked me to go home and get it and bring it back to him." And she said when she brought it back to him, he put it in his pocket and he died. And I'm like, "Oh my fucking God." I'm like, I don't want to be that person, man. I mean, like a fucking like a spiritual awakening or some bullshit just dawned on me that, man, I'm going to die and I'm going to have drugs in my pocket or I'm going to be high. I go, I do not want this life no more. I don't want to die high. I don't want to have my mother die when I'm fucking tweaking. I don't want to have anybody I love or care about die when I'm high. So I prayed to God for 5 years, trying to manage, trying to find, and finally my higher power finally answered it. I got enough time being in the hospital for I got like a 3-day early head start, no smoking cigarettes and no drugs. So when I got out, I'm like, I come from using every single freaking day for 20 years straight. The only time I wasn't not using is if I was sleeping. So
brilliant.
I got time's up.
Yeah,
Yep,
that's
thank
good.
you.
We'll just keep it moving, Eric, but please put your hand up again. That was great to hear you. Thank you. Really identified. Okay, Jericho.
Right, Paul, addict. I totally agree with that. I tried stopping quite a few times. I said earlier on I didn't want to, but I tried. Every single time it failed. That's when I had to ask for Jericho's help. Because I couldn't do it on my own. I would do it for 2 weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks. As soon as money was in the bank, the dealer was on the phone. Or if I couldn't get a dealer, I would go and buy a drink. I've not took drugs for a while, so I can get a wee drink. As soon as I get a drink, I'm buying drugs. One drink is all it takes, and then boom, I'm away, getting my drug of choice. I couldn't get Jericho and NA are helping me stay clean for the first time in my life. So
great stuff. Excellent. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else there that wants to pitch in?
Let's get them on the next question.
Get them on the next one. Jericho.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, because I was itching. You know what happens for me, guys, when I'm in a meeting and somebody's sharing some stuff, all of a sudden it bubbles up, and I want to share. I want to get in there. I have a burning desire, like some of our friends say. I used to get my money and I used to put it in different envelopes, and then I used to hide it around the house from myself. And I used to say, if I manage my money like that, I won't use. And I was absolutely insane. I'd be like 2 o'clock in the morning, lifting up, turning the bed upside down to get envelopes out to go and score. Just absolutely crazy. We've got 2 more questions, and then we'll 2 more depressing questions, and then we'll take it from there. The next one is, do we know, this is asking ourselves, of course, do we know that our addiction changed us into someone who changed us into someone we didn't want to be?
Are you able
Do you have 3 people with that one?
Yeah. Jericho, girls, you want to come back on that? Turning us into someone we didn't want to be.
That our addiction changed us into people who we didn't want to be.
Hi, I'm Ashley and I'm an addict.
Hey there.
Hiya, no, when I was in addiction, I used to get up like the night after using and just think, what the hell have I done? It just totally changed me. I got up, my kids would want to speak to me, my family wouldn't speak to me. Basically just turned me into a monster. That's what my mum and dad used to call me, like the monster of the family. And it's just, I know I'm not that person, but the addiction was just wild on my body. So that's what I took to it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Who's next up? It's Rory.
Thank you, Paul. Just wanted to say that, I became a monster. My soul had been taken away from me through this thing called addiction. And I literally didn't care about nobody. And it was a form of saying that, you know, I don't mind if I commit suicide this way, because I'm just tired of life, tired of everything. And this is where suicidal tendencies comes into us when we get to that point. It's very dangerous for any addict. You know, when you get to the point where you know that you don't have a way back and you're okay with it. You know, some people will accept living in a low standard of lifestyle or behavior. When it gets to that point, that tells me that I'm not who I used to be, and I couldn't get my soul back. So be careful. Thank you.
Thank you, Rory. Jericho.
All right, Paul, Billy.
Hey, Billy, you're killing it tonight. Brilliant stuff, Billy.
Jericho took me into somebody I didn't want to be, definitely. Somebody I didn't know. I'm not bigging myself up, but people used to come to me with a lot, ask me to do a lot for them. I was trusted, very trusted. Soon as addiction and drugs, well, addiction's always been there. As soon as drugs came on, and saying, nobody wanted to know me. Nobody would even trust me to go to the shop and get them a bottle of juice. I lied to my family, stole after my family, put drugs before my family. I didn't know myself, mate. You know what I mean? So it definitely turned into somebody I didn't want to be, because who doesn't want to know themselves? You know what I mean? Who does not want to know themselves? I didn't know myself, and I hated the person I became once I got to know. But I'm not a person now. I'm learning to be a totally different person to the person I was even before addiction. So I totally agree with you, mate. That question, thank you.
Fantastic, Billy. Thanks.
This is an age-old thing. We have to wonder why society allows us with addiction to go on for so long. There's a book that in Narcotics Anonymous that references, which is nothing to do with NA. It's the only book they reference outside of the NA program. And it was written in the 17th century by Robert Louis Stevenson. And it was called Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. They've known for a long time that we can manifest into having a different personality or becoming somebody else. And we can eventually get changed by that. And we heard the other sharers as well saying that they became monsters. And if you see any of the films of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde or read the book, he becomes a monster. And we've known about it. That's a reference of 200 years, you know. So we acknowledge that this is the place where we're at, where we come to support each other. A process of identification is paramount. It's the most important thing we can do is identify and say, well, you know, I turned into a monster as well. I couldn't go around my grandmother's house because if I went around my grandmother's house and she waddled out the room, whilst drug-free and clucking my tits off, I would go down her handbag. I was a monster, you know. So the last question we're going to have is, this is a difficult one. This is a difficult one for a lot of people. It was for me. Do we really believe that we have failed as drug users? Now, please feel free. Paul, do you want to manage this? Have 3 or 4 people?
Leah, you want to tackle that? You had your hand up. Let's get you unmuted. I know it was for the last one, but do you think? No.
No, thanks, Paul. Just for
Okay,
the last.
Lee.
It's all right. Bye.
Cool. Who was up next? Scott, we'll go to you.
Hi guys.
Scott, Nikki, and Lisa, and the Jericho. Okay.
Do I think I've failed? No, absolutely not. I've just told my wee 2-year-old boy to go on next door because I'm able to, when there's nothing in my system, I'm able to still be present and I'm able to still make a difference and I'm able to contribute to society, and this is never over till it's over, and it's only going to be over when I'm done and dead. So no, I've not failed. I've got plenty to give, and plenty of amends to make through indirect amends.
Do you think you failed as a drug user, Scott?
Well, yeah, I've never been any good at that, so I don't think I ever achieved that. I could take a hell of a lot, but that doesn't make you any good. So
brilliant, Scott. Thank you. We'll go to Nikki.
Hi, Nikki Addict. Yeah, I don't know. It depends how you look at that question. Did I fail as being a recreational drug user? Absolutely fucking miserably. Did I fail at being the best drug user that can just keep going until I died? Yes. So really depends how you look on it. But I know, sure bloody know that I'm an addict, and my brother, who has an identical upbringing to me, is not an addict, and he can take and leave any drug. And it doesn't really matter how I got here. The reality is, one thing I did surrender 2 years ago, and I have relapsed in the last year. I surrendered years ago to the fact that I definitely am an addict. Don't care whether it's in my genes or what, or this or that. I'm an addict. When I put one in me, I don't know when I'm going to stop. I don't know when I'm going to stop. It's terrifying, you know, and yeah, I am an addict, and I'm either very good at it or very bad at it, depending on how you want to look at it. Yeah.
Thanks, Nikki. We've got 3 hands up, Frankie. We'll go to Jericho.
How you doing? I'm Leslie, I'm an addict.
Hey, Leslie.
See, what that woman was saying before it, I totally got what she was saying, because see, when it comes to like, how to use drugs, that's not a problem. You know what I mean? I know how to use drugs. So in that sense of the word, I know that's going to continue unless I die. You know what I mean? That's the only way that's going to stop. But regards to like all the stuff surrounding it, you know, like my life falls apart, my body falls apart, everything else falls apart. So in that sense of the word, then everything goes to shit. Do you know what I mean? So that's it.
Nice one, Leslie. Good to hear you. Thanks for sharing. Who's it next, Matt? We've got Lisa and then JC.
Yes, I can't use them successfully at all. Hence, I'm here after 2 relapses, and yeah, it affects me mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and yeah, no, I can't. Simple.
Thank you, Lisa. Great stuff. And JC?
Yes, I definitely don't think I was able to use drugs successfully. And I can tell because different family members that I have, like my dad, he's used my entire life, and he seems to be able to manage his emotions and work and stuff. And my aunt, I mean, just from the outside, I don't really know the personal battles, but I just, you know, see other people that can use, you know, or my aunt who can just use, you know, or smoke daily and she's fine and not have problems that I have problems with. So I know that I can't use normally.
Thank you, JC. Frankie? It's you, Frankie.
Back to me.
Back to you. Sorry, I'm realising
sorry, I thought we was going to have Frank the Hat coming. Yeah, I'm coming off the iPhone. Yeah, thanks, guys. It's that thing of did we believe that we failed as drug users? You know, when we're obsessive and we're compulsive, you know, it's that thing of we're putting ourselves with the problem where we think that we've actually going to attain something or get somewhere when we've got a condition, an illness. It's a bit like the comparison disease is diabetes. You know, when someone has diabetes, they don't have the thought to think, have I failed as a diabetic? You know, it's like, it's a bit bonkers, isn't it, really? You know, so the questions to point out that some people basically, do we really believe that we're failed as drug users? They think that they was unable to use drugs. They was in that place of they failed because they could never get enough. You know, that is our problem. We always want more. You know, I've heard it said with people. You know, it doesn't matter what it is. Want more of it. Want more meetings. Want more money. You know, my sponsor even says, you know, even if you got herpes, I want more than you. You know, it's that thing of there's a lot there's a lot to do, you know, with this. There's some of the things that I heard in the rooms was, for example, something that made me laugh when they said on New Year's Eve, they said you have to be careful when you go out on New Year's Eve because it's amateur night. And when you go out on New Year's Eve, what happens is people come up to you and they want to give you drugs. They want to stick them in your pocket and they go, just have one. Well, for us, we're not failures. We just trigger a series of events when we have one, and sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, but we trigger a series of events which always ends up in the same place. If I pick up, after going to treatment 8 times, there's a good chance I'll be joining those guys in Jericho if I pick up, because that's my experience. We just share our experience. That's what we do here. It's a process of identification. We're not here to prove whether we're right or wrong. It's just that if my experience is based that once I start, I can't stop. When I don't go to meetings, my life starts going downhill. Trust me, I've been to thousands of meetings for a long period of time. Meetings become boring after a while. You hear the same pledges and the same confessions, and you see the same people getting into the same relationships. And sometimes you see people when they're, you know, a year clean or something, you think, please don't get into a relationship. Do the 12 steps first. Find out about yourselves. You know, so there's, how long we got, Paul? Sorry, I've lost track of time.
We're okay. We've got about 10 minutes left.
Okay, let's have some nice bits of the meeting now, you know, because that's all the depressing bits, isn't it? So at the end of this, there's a lot in the last paragraph. Paul, are you up for reading the last paragraph? Yeah. As a result?
Sure, okay. As a result of attending a few meetings, we begin to feel like we finally belong somewhere. It is in these meetings we are introduced to the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous. We learn to work the steps in the order that they are written and to use them on a daily basis. The steps are our solution. They are our survival kit. They are our defense against addiction, which is a deadly disease. Our steps are the principles that make our recovery possible.
Thank you, Paul. So can we have some people sharing? Can we have 3 or 4 people sharing that? The question that's coming up next is, if we are powerless, how can Narcotics Anonymous help? Can we have some people sharing how Narcotics Anonymous is helping them?
Nice.
So they can share to other people. And that question is in how it works.
Brilliant. Okay, Jericho girls.
Hiya, I'm Demi and I'm an addict.
Demi, hiya.
Hiya, thanks for taking the meeting in that, Paul. If we're powerless, then it would be to get a power in your life then, wouldn't it? Like prayer, the principles, program, use all that. And like at the weekend there, I was all, well, the weekend before, I was all unmanageable and that again. And I was trying to figure out how to fix it because I went into it a few times, and that's what it was. It was to get a power in my life. It was to go in and share it with another addict. It was to pray to remove the uncomfortable feelings, and then that gives you a bit of power back, doesn't it, I suppose?
Nice, nice, Demi. Yeah, so great answer. Louise, sorry. 2 secs, Louise, just get you unmuted.
Do you hear me?
Yeah, got you.
I know Louise and I don't. Well, what I've got out in it is that I've got connections, and I know that I'm not alone in this. I know that I've got a program. I know that I've got steps. I know that I've got a bloody good chance, like anybody else, to kick this disease. And it's just to know that, like, I'm not alone. And as long as, like, I connect with other people in the same situation as me, I know that hopefully with the will and strength in that and identifying with people, I'll be able to understand my addiction and be able to conquer it.
Nice one, Louise. Thank you. Next up, we've got Alan.
I'm Alan, I'm an addict.
Alan.
Narcotics Anonymous helps me go over my powerlessness. definitely. In fact, my eyes are open and the cock rolls out my ears today. The receptionist and distance teacher said to get through 24 hours at a time. No, it's a simple program for our complicated minds. And when we go and share, we share honestly and we connect with other addicts. Help us see addiction's connection, isn't it? So yes, I put it on and it helps me with my powerlessness. Thanks.
Nice one, Alan. Thank you,
Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Frankie. I feel a bit emotional, you know, asking that question, how Narcotics Anonymous is helping me to stay clean, you know, like I've been given a life and, you know, that thing about being powerless and now I have a choice. I didn't have a choice before and I build the relationships and I start healing from this stuff and the damage that I caused and the repair. And it says the steps are the solution and going through the steps is what helps, that bridges, that bridge to my higher power, the bridge to relationships, all of that stuff. This is my life. Do you know what I mean? And I'm grateful for it. So thank you.
Beautiful, mate. Thank you very much. Jericho. And then we got Eric.
Billy, addict.
Hey, Billy.
Well, NA is helping me by it's helping me find a power greater than addiction. It's helping me find a higher power, a loving God. God is my higher power, right? And he's a lot more powerful than addiction is. So NA has helped me find my higher power. It's given me a bit more power over the addiction, because in addiction I was so powerless. So the way NA's helped me is it's helped me find something bigger and stronger than addiction to keep me away from it, basically.
Brilliant, Billy. Love that. Okay, Eric.
I didn't go to my drug dealers' houses and discuss my clean time. I surrendered. I went to meetings. I paid attention. I listened to people. I got phone numbers. I hung out afterwards and talked to people. And I got a sponsor and I got some workbooks and I'm doing the steps. And no matter what, if I don't put it in my hand, it won't be in my mouth, because no one's ever tied me up and made me shoot up drugs or put a pipe in my mouth and made me smoke. It's all on me. So I just don't put it in my hand no matter what I go through. I just don't pick up and use no matter what. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Frankie.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, thank you, Eric. Thank you, Jericho boys, and everyone else who contributed. The next question up is just one I'm just going to answer, and that's that if we can't control our addiction, how can we control our lives? Now, if you guys at the beginning were saying you really want to stop using, like what's was pointed out, I think Rory pointed it out before he left, if we don't understand what's wrong with us, we're always going to be that fish on a hook. We're always going to be controlled by it. So we go through the 12 steps to understand what our addiction is and how it applies to us, because addiction is hard for the medical people, for the rest of the world, for our family, for the people in treatment to quantify. It's really, really difficult because it manifests in so many different ways. Now, we have to understand our addiction for ourselves. I understand what's wrong with me and I know what to do with it. It took me 10 years to get to that place. And if I can at all help anyone to get there a lot quicker than I did, I'm not a stupid person, far from it. I have letters after my name. I've been qualified since I've been in recovery, of course. But, you know, how can we control our lives? Our addiction helps control our lives to the point where we get freedom from active addiction. That's all we have here in NA, is freedom from active addiction, freedom to be able to live my life as best I can as a recovering addict. It doesn't mean I'm going to be wealthy. It doesn't mean I'm going to have a lot of friends. It doesn't mean that I'm going to live longer than everyone else. You know, health and happiness is my goal today. Next thing that jumps out in that passage in the book, it says social acceptability doesn't equal recovery. Yes, recovery is about treating our illness so we can have a life. You know, it's not about filling my phone up with 200 phone numbers, which I've done in the past and then never phoned anybody. You know, so please get to the place of working the steps and being involved. You know, Paul, I'm running a little bit dry here. You got any thoughts you want to share?
No, I was just reveling in the moment. That was great, Frankie. I think, you know, I love the way you've just taken it full circle there back to the original question, which was a pertinent one. So yeah, thank you very much for taking the time tonight. Frankie is like our father figure here at the Clean and Serene group. Like I say, he's done several of these workshops here for us, and we've all found them very useful. Matt and I were talking earlier, this for those in treatment meeting is, you know, they're all important, but this is a really special meeting to us with all you guys taking part, and it's meant a lot to us, you know, building up that relationship with you over the months and seeing you guys grow and stuff. And we just got our heads together today and thought about how can we do something a little bit different. So please keep coming back, we really need you. And you know, it's great stuff. It's great stuff.
Guys, it's very simple. Powerless means no power. Our manageability is our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions, not only our financial stuff, you know, and a power greater than ourselves can either be the prison services or it can be Narcotics Anonymous and the experience shared. It's quite simple. People like to, I love that, I think it was Alan said it, you know, simple program for complicated people. You know, we're not idiots. None of us are. You know, there's a quick story, if you don't mind me sharing, if we've got a minute, which is about the Enigma machine. If you read the book about the Enigma machine, what happens is they get the brightest people in the country to try and crack the Enigma machine during the Second World War, because in the North Atlantic, they were sinking ships. The Germans were sinking ships with their U-boats, and we couldn't get the food and supplies through. Well, what they had was a hut, especially for the addicts. If you read the book, the story's in there. And they used to say to them, if you crack the machine and the code, you can have a weekend pass. And they used to crack the code before anyone else. They were the fastest people cracking the code. The problem they had was when they gave them the weekend pass, they didn't come back. Well, they come back so loaded they couldn't function. Don't believe my bullshit. Go and read the book for yourself, you know. Or read the other one we said earlier, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That's quite funny, the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I relate to that one. So, yeah, sorry, waxing lyrical there. I've enjoyed tonight. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thank you very much, Frankie. Thanks very much for tonight. It's been absolutely brilliant and invaluable. We've got a couple of readings.